So here's the outhouse that my father built in 1978. It's been 45 years. The roof is not only covered with moss, and that's okay, but it's now started actually leaking. I've replaced this roof once 25 years ago. We dug out the pit 2-3 years ago, but now it's time to replace that. So we're gonna need some tools. What we've got, we need a shingling hatchet and a hammer and some nails and a good supply of shakes. I built this shake shed to protect some. These are ones I had left over from building the log cabin, and they all this time are in good shape. I actually split my hand from a cedar log, and now it's going to be time to see what we can do about this. Kind of hard to get this thing loose. Oh, look at that thickness of this moss. And these shakes, these don't appear to be the ones that are leaking. They could be okay. It's going to take a while. So the view from the top of the outhouse explains why I was having trouble getting those shakes off. Well, of course, you have to take them off from the top first, because that's the way they're put on. It's still going to be tricky, and there's all of this moss to clear out. Well, as with the restoration of any historic building, things are more complicated than they first look. At least 3 of the purlins are too rotten to be saved. And did I really patch the roof with a bunch of sheet metal at one point? Apparently so. Well, with the initial demolition of the outhouse roof complete, we can determine that this structure was not built by an architectural engineer, but rather a newspaper editor from Salem on summer vacation, sort of an urban bear who I think was tired of shitting in the woods. Fortunately, an outhouse does not have to be built quite to the standards of the Brooklyn Bridge. We're going to have to replace 4 of these purlins. Those are the rafters that go along the top, completely rotted away. And do a little work to the seat too. It's just a little springy, that's not good. And I've cleaned up around here a little bit. We got a big pile of debris there. And the shakes. These are the old ones. And those I've cleaned up, pulled out the nails. They'll all be used for kindling. We'll get the grandkids to chop them up for kindling. You know, it's 45 years ago my dad built this thing. He was actually quite proud of it. He said it was the only log construction outhouse in the world that he'd been able to document. And he said it's because it's a really difficult way to build anything. Well, it's crooked, it's rickety, but by golly, we're going to rebuild it as much as we can the original way. Well, okay, I've now cut a hole and rounded out a little bit. It's not going to be comfortable enough. This will make it a little better. Then put on the seat and see if it fits. Well, I may have to do a little bit more trimming. Okay, I've replaced the purlins, these rafters on the roof, the 4 that were missing, with new ones, up to the same, attempting to get the same level of architectural incompetence as the originals. The main thing is that they line up somewhat on both sides so that the shakes go on flat. I have 2 grades of shakes. Pretty good ones here, hand split. Pretty bad ones, old hand split. And then store-bought. The store-bought ones, of course, taper. They're the only ones that taper because they saw them diagonally lengthwise to get 2 where there would otherwise normally be 1, and so they're much thinner and not nearly as good. So for the first row, the first course of shakes, that one is under the weather. It's underneath. So you can use a lower grade for that. We'll set it out there and nail it on in a minute. And then you want to save a nice one for the corner of the top. And that'll get nailed on top of that right there. And we have to keep an eye on the overlap. Okay, with the undercourse on, you put on the top layer here so it covers all the cracks and holes, like that one, and then, and the nails. Just fit it together, it's a jigsaw puzzle. And then the nails go here in here at the top on these, right about, well, right into that purlin there. Hold them good and tight. And there we have it, all finished. Well, you thought you'd see the outhouse roof completed. These videos always end that way, no suspense. Imagine, it'll happen. Part of the fun of a project at the log cabin is not getting done too fast.